what the Conservatives need to do to win. Now, we've looked at Europe and we've realised that, oh, look, right-wing wins, right-wing wins, right-wing wins, right-wing very close to winning, right-wing very close to winning. The pendulum is swinging to the right. And so the British Conservatives are like, what if we do Blairism again? So, yeah, no. This is why you're absolutely getting tanked, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
And even Blair's there at the side going, no, guys, don't do it.
Well, that's interesting. If you want to support us, right, go over to lotus.com and watch this latest hangout that I did with Callum about, is Tony Blair based? Because people are wrongly telling others that I am saying that Tony Blair is based, and I am not saying Tony Blair is based. What Tony Blair is, the reason he looks based is because he is no longer a Blairite, ironically, because Tony Blair came into power in the late 90s, did a bunch of stuff that was terrible, and anyone with any common sense could have told you was terrible at the time, and the Conservatives of the time, in fact, did say was terrible, and then within about 10 years' time, he'd seen the consequences of his actions and gone, oh, that was bad, I shouldn't have done that, and so now he's going around telling everyone, yeah, don't be a Blairite because I've made a lot of mistakes.
I mean, he's kind of the real-life version of the Reflections on Revolution in France meme of the I want things to change, destroys everything, oh no.
Yes, that's exactly what Tony Blair is. And so it's not that Tony Blair is based. What it is he wants the Labour Party to succeed, and he is trying to advise the Labour Party not to be a Blairite party. And this is why he's looking based, because he's essentially leaning to the right and saying, look, if you do all these things, people won't vote for you, so you've got to lean right, because, of course, the public is actually quite far right, just generally, right? And so that's why Tony Blair seems based, but he's not at all. But anyway, so let's begin with what Liz Truss is doing. Tax cuts, okay. I mean, I like tax cuts. I suppose that's leaning right.
I mean,
something.
The funny thing is, nobody ever complains about tax cuts. Well, at least when it's tax cuts that you benefit from.
Well, the left complain.
Well, yeah, but the left complains about literally everything.
Yes, they do.
Tax cuts are one of the most universally popular policy positions you can ever take. It's an easy win.
Yes, it is an easy win, right? Because at the moment, basically they're abolishing the 45% tax income of earnings over 150,000, and so the highest tax bracket will be 40%. It's like, oh, that's still 40%. Well, the Americans fought a civil war, a revolution over 3% tax.
This is just the paradigm that we live in right now, because of the fact that you can identify the tax being spent as being spent on behalf of the people. The people go, well, I want more money spent on me, don't I? Yeah. It's completely stupid.
And they're reducing the residual rates by 1% as well. So basically, if you earn over £30,000, it'll be £33 a month, that you save, which is something. It's I'd rather it go down slightly than up slightly. But it's not
£33. That'll get me what, an extra maybe an extra half a litre of petrol
nowadays.
An
extra loaf of bread, by the way that inflation's going. So it's not much, but it's something. And of course, the left have been whining about this in The Guardian. Liz Truss plans to radically reshape the UK economy with even more tax cuts and fewer regulations, her Chancellor has said. Great. Brilliant. If The Guardian are whining about what you're doing the right thing. If they're not whining about you, then you're doing the wrong thing. That's the way that's the barometer you need to be using, according to Tony Blair. Right? So they are complaining about this because, of course, they're like, well, it's £45 billion of tax cuts mainly for the rich. It's like, yeah, but that's because the rich are paying most of the tax, isn't it?
Yeah. So and this is the Elon Musk argument, where they go, oh, Elon Musk doesn't pay his fair share. Elon Musk paying $11 billion in tax.
Yeah. Is that not okay? But that's the complaint. It's just that the rich, they will always load it in this way. Say, well, the tax cuts are mostly for the rich, and so that's because they pay most of the tax. But they're still for people who don't pay as much tax.
Well, interestingly, Kwasi Kwarteng, actually, I listened to a bit of his speech when he was giving the mini-budget. Seemed like he was channeling Thomas Sowell quite a bit when talking about it, because he specifically said the reason that they wanted to do this was to attract greater investment, to allow businessmen and entrepreneurs to be a bit more risky with their money, and also recognise that, hey, if we keep taxing them too much, they will just find loopholes or pull out of the country altogether.
Which is precisely what Truss told Jake Tapper the other day. When he decided he was going to confront her on this, she said that they were incentivizing businesses to invest and helping ordinary people get on with their lives, with their taxes. Which, I mean, it's pretty basic libertarian economics, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't even necessarily
Not
need
even
to be
libertarian.
libertarian. Yeah, it can be conservative because, shockingly enough, you want a country to succeed.
Yeah.
And policies that prevent that are bad.
Yeah. So now I'm no economist, so I have no idea why the pound sank to its lowest level against the dollar, why the market's flipped out over this, and I don't even know what the implications are. I know that there are benefits and drawbacks to having a strong and weak currency.
Well, it can make your currency a bit more viable on the international markets.
Yeah, makes your exports increase, but it makes imports difficult, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm not an economist, so I'm just going to skip over. But these basically became controversial within her own party, where people are like, oh, my God, we're going to hit the nuclear button if the pound continues to fall. It's like, right. So there are elements within the Conservative Party who are like, how dare you cut taxes? Brilliant. That's not
very conservative.
Yeah, that's just ultra Blairite policy, right? One Tory MP, unnamed, told the paper, my biggest anxiety is I'm going to wake up on Monday and it's going to be Black Monday. So, okay, maybe, but I mean, I spoke to Dan Tubbs about this and he was just like, look, this is coming whether we like it or not. You know, how long we can stave off these problems is the question. But anyway, so they are, just to summarize this briefly, they're very concerned about the market and the pound's value, and there's probably going to be some sort of backbench revolt in the Conservative Party. I don't know what the future is going to hold here.
If I were to make a guess about why that's happened to the pound, it will probably be international trust in the UK markets. It's probably sunk a little bit.
That I think is probably accurate, because Bloomberg put an article about this saying, well, look, the international traders are more worried by Liz Truss than Meloni in Italy. Which is surprising because, like, Liz Truss has said nothing about international traders, but Meloni's like, we're going to beat these guys.
Yeah, she's got an active vendetta against them.
So what's amusing about this, though, is that yeah, exactly. She's got an active vendetta against them, but that's not as scary as Liz Truss's incompetence. I'm more worried about Liz Truss not knowing what she's doing.
I mean, put that way, I can kind of get it. I'm surprised. I'm sure she had to be directed for this photo shoot where the helmet goes.
Probably, yes. But anyway, the point being that the voting public is not objecting to tax cuts, because as you said, no one's going to object to tax cuts, apart from Guardian readers. So leaning right is good here, even if international markets are freaking out and the Conservatives can't hold their nerve in the face of doing the right thing, blah, 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 right? But the thing is, I'm not going to vote for the Tories unless they tell me that they are far right on practically every other issue. Unless they are publicly proclaiming, yes, we're a far-right party when it comes to the family, when it comes to border security, when it comes to immigration.
Crime and punishment.
Exact, crime and punishment. Like, education. Just all of these things. I want them to explicitly say we are a far-right party on these things. We are like Meloni, we are like Le Pen, we are like the Swedish Democrats or whatever it was. We are a patriotic party, which is the far-right position. That's what I want to hear from them, right? I don't want to hear that they're going to loosen immigration to make lying go up. That is just not what I want to hear. Look, Guardian's like, oh, here's a puff piece. Have a nice positive article where we're not going to call you a Nazi.
Yeah, we know what our readers want.
Exactly. The Guardian's praising you, you're doing something wrong, right? So she's expected to loosen immigration rules, which is remarkable because the Conservatives let in 1 million people, 1.16 million a year.
How much looser can they get?
I didn't realise we had restrictions. Like, I just thought the only restriction was just literally the number of spaces in the ports and on the planes as they came down.
On the beaches.
Yeah, exactly. So she's doing this to expand the government's shortage occupation list to help businesses fill vacancies by recruiting overseas workers with less bureaucracy. Oh, brilliant. Just brilliant. This is a full return to Blairism. She's going to do the Mandelson thing and send out search parties to bring him in. No, I mean, she might.
Well,
no, but seriously, the Blair government did that. They sent search parties out to foreign countries to get them to come here.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining
the podcast.
I'm just imagining like a remix of Churchill's speech where instead of we'll fight them on the beaches, we'll take them at the ports, we'll take them at the airports, we'll take them on the beaches.
We will never surrender until our island is literally packed wall to wall with foreigners. But this is because that there are industry demands saying, oh look, we just want extra workers. And it's like, and this sucks for you, but it stops being a buyer's market for labour and it becomes a seller's market for labour. Because who does that benefit? That benefits the worker. It doesn't benefit the CEO.
You would think The Guardian, of all publications, would be in support of this?
Not The Guardian, but But I would think the Conservatives, of all people, would be in support of this. Like, look, cut the taxes and just stop the immigration, and then an equilibrium will find itself. But anyway, the cap is expected to be lifted and a 6-month time limit extended, according to The Sun, which is no. This is any goodwill that you built up through tax cuts, you obliterate through saying, yes, so now we're going to open the borders even more. It's like, what do you mean even more? We're going to get 2 million a year now. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
We're going to have to build even more houses.
Yeah.
That lovely field behind your house, wave goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to literally mega city Britain. But then you get like idiots like this on Twitter being like, in 2 weeks, Liz Truss has become the best Prime Minister of my lifetime. So are you serious, Miss Raheem Ibrahim? In what way? She has reversed the national insurance rise. Wow, brilliant. She's cancelled the 6% rise in corporation tax. Good idea. She's abolished the top rate of tax, and she's prepared to increase immigration to boost growth. The line is going up, boys.
You had me going for a little bit
Yeah.
there. Not gonna lie.
Had me in the first half, and then it's just like, right, and then we're going to get more Leicester, more Birmingham. You know those machete riots in London? Yeah, more of that. Please, more of that, because that's the consequence of immigration.
I mean, the Leicester needs reinforcements.
Which is how I guess they're viewing it. Like, okay, well, look,
Jesus
the
Christ.
Hindus have clearly won this battle. We need to muster a new army. Like, what's going? Like, it's just economic growth. It's just warm bodies on an island on my spreadsheet. That's all it is. There's no other concerns. It's mental. Right, and so this is producing another cabinet revolt for Liz Truss.
Oh, not another one,
which
please.
Apparently it's not archived for whatever reason.
Oh, bloody
But
hell.
this is a Daily Mail article where they were Liz Truss is facing another cabinet revolt because of her immigration plans. Suella Braverman, Jacob Rees-Mogg, and there was someone else, Kemi Badenoch, who were objecting to this because, I mean, it was in your manifesto that you were going to reduce immigration.
I do love that it's always the Conservatives in the cabinet from foreign descent who are like, close the bloody borders.
Yeah, well, they're right to do so, you know. But at least they're consistent on these things, right? You know, Suella Braverman and Kemi Badenoch have been consistent about immigration. So okay, good. You know, at least there's a couple of people. The Truss is threatening to lift the cap. Apparently, there's a numbers cap of 40,000 people.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, imagine,
No, there
imagine, and abolish the requirement for them to be able to speak English. It's like,
wait,
sure, why not?
there is a requirement?
I walk around Swindon and I hear people speaking just all sorts of languages, like Spanish and Italian and French and Asian language. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, I can see the results of your immigration policy. Like, this is just mental. And of course, we've got the Channel crossings adding to all of this. Add to the million, we've got 30,000 illegals. And it just makes you wonder why they come illegally. I mean, not that anything happens to them, but why would you come illegally? If the UK is just letting in 1 million people a year, just apply on the website. You don't have to go through all of this, unfortunately.
Is it easier somehow?
Yeah.
I
So
don't
this is
understand.
more people have come this year than the whole of last year. 30,000 compared to the 28,000 last year. And
Guess we got Brexit done, lads.
yeah, exactly. We got Brexit done, and so it's not like they're being sent back anyway. Don't know what's happening with the Rwanda plan. That paused things for like a week, and then they were like, they sent no one to Rwanda. Okay, well, great. We're not even going to send Albanian asylum seekers back. And when we say asylum seekers, we mean human traffickers
And drug dealers.
and drug dealers. Yes. The government's rapid returns to deal with Albanians is been thrown into doubt as after it emerged those who claim asylum will be exempt. So if you say, I'd like to claim asylum, please, they're going to okay, well, then he's staying forever, which means that literally like 90% of them will not be removed. So, okay. Because all you have to do is claim asylum. Every single one of them could claim asylum. Not that there's a war in Albania or anything, but who cares? Doesn't matter. And so this is, of course, because of the lefty human rights lawyers that, in fact, it was Boris Johnson who said we're going to remove the Human Rights Act of, what was it? I can't remember the year of the Human Rights Act now.
Was it 98?
Maybe 2004, something like that.
No.
But it was, I think it was the 1998 Human Rights Act. Again, another Blair initiative. We're going to repeal it and replace it with something that the lefty human rights lawyers can't use to make sure that they get around all this. Yeah, it was 1998. Thank you, John. And Braverman, again, was the person being like, yeah, get out of the European Court of Human Rights, get rid of this thing. This is the only solution to the immigration problem, because currently the left are using the law as it's written by Tony Blair to ensure that we can't fix this. And it's like, okay, who's got dominating control of Parliament? It's not me.
It's not Labour.
Keir Starmer. It's not the Liberal Democrats. It's not the SNP. It is the Conservative Party, of which you guys are a part. And you could literally do this tomorrow.
It is infuriating that they keep saying, we're definitely going to do this. We will do this. They keep saying that they will. And then when?
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're going to do it. Just
give me
do
a date.
It.
Give me the date, And so, yeah, it's just insufferable. And so this, I think, the constant failure to address the actual problems that people are genuinely concerned about that has given Labour their historic lead. Now, this is incredible, actually, and I don't really take YouGov very seriously, but it's not just YouGov. I saw a few other polls before it went live, and I just didn't have time to put them in. There are a couple of other polls that show literally like a 15 to 17 point lead that Labour have over the Conservatives at the moment.
Jesus.
So, the Labour Party are an absolute joke. At the moment, the Labour Party conference is going on, and it's just a clown show of people.
I've seen some clips that Callum's shown me.
Yeah, Callum's going to do a
supercut
montage, a supercut, because it's just the standard clown show from the Labour Party. It's genuinely hilarious, and all Keir Starmer just has to do now is just be quiet. It's just like, okay, and then Keir Starmer wins, and it's like unbelievable. And so right, okay, the Conservatives, why though? Why are people not supporting? Why are the Conservatives on 28%? 28%. Like you're less well favoured than Joe Biden. And he has actively destroyed his own country.
Well, when you put it like that, that's bad.
That's really bad.
I already knew it was bad. I mean, obviously Conservatives for basically the past 2 years have been having a repeated series of public meltdowns and scandals. So it's not that surprising but fallen lower than Labour as well.
Only 3 years ago, Boris was winning supermajorities. Like massive sweeps, converting the North, because he had something.
Yeah,
but I know, John, implying they're not actively doing it. I don't think it's active. I think they're just incompetent, right? I just think they don't know what to do. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to say, I knew people up north who were like, well, I've never voted Conservative before, but Labour suck.
Well, they do, but this is the thing, right? So the percentages are actually slightly misleading, right? So there's a Matthew Goodwin, an academic, has looked into this, and he has found that actually the problem is that Conservatives are not holding on to their existing voters. If you can go to the next graph, you can see, here we go. Right, so you can see who voted in 2015, 2017, 2019, and you've got massive number of Conservatives. However, if you look at the bottom one, 2019, half of those voters have just disappeared. It's not that they've gone over to Labour, only about 10% have gone over to Labour, but the rest of them are just like, I'm just not voting. I'm not voting for this Conservative Party.
I get it.
Right? So, exactly, right? I completely get it. There is a massive floating, unattached block of potential Conservative voters who are just refusing to vote for the pro-immigration, basically LGBTQ plus Conservatives. They are not voting for that. And so what the Conservative Party needs to do is lean to the right as hard as possible, just like in Europe at the moment, because these are the genuine problems that are facing these countries, and they're not going away. We can see the change in the streets of our own towns and cities. We can see it. What's it like going through Swindon?
It's not like being in England, I'll tell you that.
Right, exactly.
Once again, it was just a massive, even though it's only like 100 miles away, culture shock just coming down here from where I was living, where everyone is English except for maybe 4 or 5 people who, because they're in such a minority, have just integrated and are just normal with everybody else, to coming here, where you walk down the street and you've got asylum seekers everywhere, you've got people talking foreign languages constantly, you walk around and you feel outside of England.
I feel like I've gone on holiday somewhere.
Somewhere horrible.
Yeah, it's somewhere horrible, where the economy's collapsing. But this is the point. It's not that the Conservative voters wouldn't vote Conservative. It's not that the Conservatives can't activate these voters again. It's that there's nothing coming out of the mouths of the Conservatives themselves that will bring them back and say, okay, well, actually vote for us. Because why would you? Why would you vote for a party? It's like, so we're going to do more of that immigration you loved so much. It's like, Ben, I will not vote for this. And so basically what I'm saying is the Conservatives need to start declaring themselves actively as far right. You need to be like, no, we are a far-right party, and we're going to do far-right things, just like the family, faith, and God and country thing. Like, just come out with that. That's our agenda. The majoritarian agenda is the far-right agenda. It's not like, evil. It's actually good to do that.
If you need evidence that'd work beyond just pointing to foreign countries as well, just look at last week with the response to the Queen's funeral.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Precisely the point. Like, that is the real Britain that is existing. When we're not being constantly bombarded by minoritarian propaganda, that's what you're appealing to, Conservatives. Literally millions of people all got out in the street to go and see this. That's your voter base. Engage them, actually play to their concerns. Do what they want. And if the Guardian is not complaining about you, then you are not doing the job right. They should be screeching and shouting, oh God, you're far right, and you should just turn around and go, yeah.
If you somehow even manage to pull the Guardian right somehow, what you need to do in response is go even further right.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, that's just the only way I think the Conservatives can win, because they're bleeding their traditional demographics, because they're trying to be a Blairite party, and even Tony Blair is like, no, that's a bad idea, as you can see in the podcast. But anyway.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series we do, this one on William the Conqueror Part 1. And if you want to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.